Stadium. It's so lovely to see so many faces in person. It's been a tough few years, there's no doubt about it. We've got a stellar guest list this evening. They're looking forward to answering some of your questions. But first off, I just want to thank the Ospreys Supporters Club for advertising this night and for also getting so much interest. We've had over 80 questions submitted. Nick, be warned, quite a bit are for you. So you might have a busy evening. We're really grateful. We know what you want to talk about. We hopefully will get through those subjects this evening. If we don't panic. There's a little sheet on every table where you can submit some more questions at half time. We'll have a little break after about 45 minutes and then we'll go to the bar, go to the toilet, we'll come back and we'll hopefully get through those questions that you do want to talk about. So, without any further ado, let's introduce you to the panel, although I'm sure they don't need much introduction. Lions, Welsh, Ospreys wingers, Alex Cuthbert and George North. Give them a round of applause. Head coach, Toby as well is with us. Chief Executive, he's been in the job for a year already, well, it's flown by, I'm sure. Nick Garcia as well. We're going to get to the tough questions very soon, but I want to start off by saying happy birthday to two of the boys. Alex, last week, I believe?
Yep.
And the big 3-0 on Wednesday, George North. I know. Usually when you get to 30, you start thinking and reflecting about what you've achieved with your life. But when you're George North, I guess that doesn't happen, does it? What, 100 caps, how many appearances for the Ospreys, Lions, tries? We could sit here for a while, couldn't we? But what's on the birthday list, George? What have you asked for from the missus or the family?
I think if I talk about it, it's actually going to happen, so I'd rather not talk about it. Just stay 29 Peter Pan forever, I think. No, I had a small gathering on Saturday with my family and friends. It was very tame, nothing really happened. And then I got home early, went to bed, and Wednesday is actually my birthday, so I'll be having a slice of cake on Wednesday, probably a card or two, and then that'll be it.
Well, hopefully more than that. Nick Garcia, get sorting it. We want to know about your injury, George. How are we? Obviously, we were hoping you'd be back for the Zebra game, I think, but a bit of a setback, possibly. How far away are we?
So I've worked out if I keep putting dates on stuff, it never happens. So Zebra obviously was our big focus, as we talked about. The boss man was rubbing his hands. He thought we were back in, and then a small speed bump, I will admit, was quite a speed bump in the end that we needed to address. And then, I'm hoping to be back involved with these Derby games now with the Blues week Saturday. So I've shot myself in the foot again. So hopefully, if all goes well, if not, the next few weeks.
Okay, well that's good news. I'm sure we all agree. Alex, how are you? Now, did you volunteer to do this evening, to get out of nappy changing, putting the kids to bed? Because you've got a 6-week-old at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit of both, to be fair. Since we've been back, obviously we got back from South Africa on Monday, and literally as I walked through the door, here you go. So I had a pretty busy weekend, especially a week off, but I still feel like I need another week just to get over it. But no, it was good. I've obviously been in camp with Six Nations, so I haven't had a chance to spend any quality time with the kids, so it's been good to have that time.
What a 12 months you've had being back here at the Ospreys and having that call-up with Wales. Has it all happened a bit sooner than you expected, or did you expect it at all? Obviously I've been away for a couple of years and sort of came back, sort of needed to sort of settle down, but yeah, I guess I haven't really had time to think about it really. It's been so, hectic with playing, trying to get back fit, playing, and obviously with the autumn, having a bit of a run there, and then obviously the Six Nations, we're renovating a house at the moment, so I'm thinking about that, as well as obviously my partner pregnant, and then looking after the two kids, so I haven't really had a chance. Well. Yeah, just sort of...
He's hiding it very well.
Yeah, but in all honesty, I always thought when I was at Exeter, I was still able to try and put my hand up for Wales, and I wanted to give it a crack, and luckily Ospreys gave me a chance, and I've just sort of taken my chance, I guess.
Yeah, you've taken it very well, no doubt about it. Toby, Alex mentioned there South Africa. We won't sort of say too much about the results, but fair to say it was quite the journey out there. Tough, from your perspective?
Yeah, very tough. It was great actually. Despite the performances were what they were and the results were what they are. But for us as a group, and I appreciate everyone's had COVID restrictions over the last few years, to spend some time away with a group. We've got a very young group. Some people have never travelled that far before. I mean, the start of this season playing Northampton away with the crowd was the infancy of our group, for example. Some of them had never played in front of a crowd before. So to spend that time with a group of people and the influence of, you know, the international boys and the ex-international boys influencing the young group and how to behave, performance behaviours, there's lots of added value. That was the positive side. The learning side was we need to play certainly a different game when we go down there, for sure.
Yeah, the league has been very different this time around, obviously with the South Africans in there. A stronger league for it, would you argue?
Yeah, well, without doubt. I mean, you've taken Super Rugby teams and put them into the URC, which is a great, I think, from a spectacle point of view. Similarly, when the South African teams came up here, you know, they really struggled as well. So, you know, I spent a bit of time talking to their coaches, as boring as it sounds, and it was, you know, us learning about each other, and coaches are good and bad for that. But we need to be certainly more streetwise and understand what we're walking into, and, you know, just the altitude, for example, on the first game was horrendous for the players, and we need to learn quickly, but it's not going away, and I think the competition will be better for it, but we need to obviously learn what we have to do down there. I mean, Edinburgh's the only team that's won there, and you know, it was Hurricane Mitch and a storm, which is probably like Edinburgh more than anything else. So from that point of view, it's a very hard place to go, but we need to learn how to compete there.
Let's have a little chat with Nick then. Nick, a year tomorrow you would have been in the job. How have you found the first year?
I've really enjoyed it. So first of all, I was living abroad, so moved back to the UK. Didn't want to move to the UK. But when someone said, what do you think of South West Wales? I said, that could work. So really enjoying living in Swansea and here with the family. Really enjoying the Ospreys. I think actually the club's in good shape in terms of year one, which was the Y11 year one I'm talking here, was all about investing on the pitch and getting the right infrastructure in place and everything. And then year two, which I guess I was the beginning of, was about investing off the pitch and therefore driving the sustainability of what you're investing on the pitch. And you know, I think we've made some good strides there. We've got a finance director who came from PwC. We've got a commercial director that came from Southampton in the Premier League. We've got a really heavy-hitting HR director. So we're starting to get some really good people in the business to augment the people we already had, right? And getting that outside experience, but also keeping what is real about the Ospreys has been really important. So I've really enjoyed that, and it's been weird, right? Because my first game here was without crowds, a couple more without crowds, and I don't enjoy that, even from a spectator point of view. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and I think COVID has been more of a hangover than any of us expected it would be. And I've learned a lot about the politics that surround Welsh rugby.
It's only the first 10 minutes.
Let's go. Yeah.
We can go.
And I was warned, right? I was told by everyone, so you need to think about these guys, and I didn't know. But you know, that too we're making headway on. So it's been a pretty challenging year, but I think we're in good shape from where we plan to be.
Challenging. What would you say has been the biggest challenge then?
I think the ecosystem of rugby in Wales. Are we getting right into this
Well,
so early?
Yeah, well, we'll go there. We'll go back to the lads and then talk about something later.
Look, I think the ecosystem of rugby in Wales is difficult, and I've never worked in rugby outside Wales, right? So this might not be a Welsh rugby thing; it might be a rugby thing. Certainly, you've got big private equity money trying to realign the game between national team and clubs, and I think that has to happen. But what I have seen is, I mean, obviously it's no secret I came from football. The people you deal with in rugby are so much nicer to deal with than the people in football. The fans, the staff, the players, it's a different breed, right? So I'm really enjoying that. But I think the good news, and I can only talk for the last year, is that there's a lot of conversations happening between the regions, between the WRU around how we can make Wales competitive globally at club and national team level, more competitive, bring it back to glory days. So I take a lot of kind of heart from that. So that's been the biggest surprise.
So you've been here for 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
Toby, it's coming up to 2 years, or just over 2 years for yourself, is it?
Second season.
Second season. Are the Ospreys where you wanted them to be at this point under yourself?
No. I expect it to be a little bit further down the track, if I'm honest. There's some mitigation around that, situational. I mean, we talk about, we're at currently just over 50% win rate. To be a challenging team, we need to be 70 plus. And I'm sure there's questions out there about consistency and bits and pieces, and these guys will know better than anybody that the thing that drives consistency more than anything else is competition. Competition for places, competition for it all. And the hidden cost of injury and where the internationals sit, you've seen selections that we're governed by some of the stuff that Nick talks about for what we can play and when we can play them. And these guys get caught in the middle, and we have to sort of navigate through, which is very choppy water for sure. And from where I've come from, where the clubs and the regions, for example, own the game, we have all the control, and obviously that's not the case here. So that's been a really interesting one, and it's probably bitten us harder this time as we've produced more players and young players. It will start to affect us more. Add some long-term injury, and it's great to see these two guys, running around on the pitch this morning and getting close to playing together and part of that. But the hidden cost of injury, we've not been able to compete in training, for example, and injuries hurt you, availability hurts you, you can't train competitively, you don't have competitiveness in selection. So, and also we're learning about what we're capable of. We're also learning about what works, what doesn't work, and that's for me, so it's not all on external. We need to learn, as we talked about South Africa, we need to learn, our intention, we'd go out and score tries every day. George will tell you, Cuthbert will tell you, why are we not being more aggressive, more expensive, etc. But it's only governed by the talent you have on the pitch, and young players, they need coaxing and supporting that. So the short answer, that wasn't a short answer. The short answer is no. I think we're slightly below where I'd like us to be, but the signs are encouraging.
You mentioned the consistency. Somebody did actually send in a question saying, look, what is the solution to the tendency to concede tries away from home in fast games against athletic opponents such as Glasgow, Connacht and the Lions, especially when you sort of beat people like Munster, a great arm wrestle here earlier on in the season, but then the disappointment of going on the road and conceding those tries.
Yeah, I mean, the year before, and again, you talk about crowds and effect, year before we won more away from home. So, there's an irony in that. But the bit around, for example, the games that you mentioned there, they've all come after post-international window. They've come either in the time where we haven't got players. Our intention, of course, is to, as I said, to score tries, and our intention is not to miss tackles. But as you saw at the weekend, when you play against the very best, you miss one tackle and there's a massive effect of that. So we have to understand, and that's where we are as a group, understanding how we mitigate against that, prevention over cure. We are certainly fit enough from a Northern Hemisphere point of view, whether we have got the conditioning or the athletes to play in the Southern Hemisphere, and then we need a more balance potentially to our recruitment. But also, we can only, like last year, we were good, I thought, with our recruitment last year. I'm sure there's recruitment questions out there, what's happening, around that. We had opportunity, and the financial scenario is really quite simple. We have to let contracts unwind before we can sign new contracts, and we have very little room in that capacity, both from a financial point of view, but also from an availability point of view. Whereas the following year, we have 30 people of contract. So unfortunately, these things have to unwind, and I've inherited that, Nick's inherited that, these boys are part of that. We know that we need to be more potent. We know we need more people that can beat defenders. We saw that, for the South African sides. We can win an arm wrestle. No, we've got no worries about that. We've got a forward pack that can compete. We know that. We know we've got a lot of streetwise boys, a lot of committed boys, a lot of good, high energy guys. we're just looking for that game-breaking ability, and I think we're a bit short there.
You're right, we have got questions about recruitment, but I just want to ask first about your coaching team. Obviously, Brock James is departure, we've got Darren Edwards here at the moment. What can you tell us about your coaching team? Have you got any news for us going forward?
No, not specifically. We obviously know that Brock's leaving. No, it's not. It's a no. George has taken over recruitment, and Cuffy's doing no. So we are in a situation, quite simply, where that we went to the interview process from a defence point of view. World Cup years are quite difficult. People are resistant to move, and if we can't find what we're looking for, we'll stay as we are. So from that point of view, Richard Fussell's done a brilliant job with Brock, so we can get some continuity. That's also important for us, and we need to invest in the coaching of our young academy players to make sure we get them through as quickly as we can. So again, there's a financial element to that, but there's no point in making changes for change's sake unless there's something better we can go to.
Let's ask you one of those recruitment questions then. You mentioned the pack. You have got a great pack, and you've spent some money on that pack as well. One question you've been asking: when are you going to? Sorry, lads. When are you going to invest in your backs? But you know, when these guys aren't available, when George is injured, when Alex is away with Wales.
Every coach that you'll ever speak to in any environment like this will say they always want more players. Want more players, more of them, more consistency, more competition for training. We have to invest in the fundamentals of the game. We contribute a hell of a lot of forwards to the international programme, irrespective of that. We need to cover that first and foremost. Unfortunately, we picked up a lot of dents in the same areas as well, so we've not trained competitively enough. By default, we've been on survival mode, and back three players have been, so second rows and back three players have been absolutely decimated for various reasons. So I see these two as new signings, if I'm honest, because we haven't had them for such a long time. They're very eager to come and do what they need to do. And then if you add in some of the young players, so the exciting players you look, so Matt Prothero, Max Nagy, COVID twice, dislocated elbow, injury, all of these players have all picked up, so they've had no consistency. So we're looking to get a little bit in there, but we haven't got the capacity to get in there. But we're very aware of what we've got and what we haven't had, and we have to find a way to win with and without them.
I'm going to come back to you, lads. Obviously, senior players now too. Some of those youngsters that Toby's just been mentioning, Matt Prothero and all those, are they coming to you for advice, and are you enjoying maybe that fatherly figure in the group?
I'm only a few years older than you, but no, obviously I think when I first came here, Toby sort of knew the sort of experience I've had, especially being away like a club like Exeter, and I'm always on to the youngsters, to be fair, in terms of whether it's doing their homework before gate, knowing what their roles are, or just confidence behind their ear, sort of maybe if they're not playing as much, or just what sort of situation should I do here and what there. So I can only give my advice in terms of what I've learned and my experience. So I quite enjoy that sort of role. I guess seeing Wales, I think there's a lot of proud boys in Wales, and I think sometimes they feel like they maybe not so much scared, but maybe too, not feel like they're not able to come and speak to us older boys. And I think for us older boys, we need to go to them and give our experience or our advice, and I think that needs to be probably brought more into the squad, and I think that's only going to improve the squad as we go on.
I don't know if this question's relevant to you, George, because they call you the man-child today.
Yes.
Only 29. We're only 29.
Well, it's a nickname. It's not actually my name. I think we're very fortunate in what we have in the academy and what is coming through. I think the issue sometimes is that we can't educate them or bring them on fast enough, and sometimes the best way they learn is by playing, and that's the way I learned. I got shoved in very early at 17, 18, and I sort of had to find my feet. So like Cuthie said, it's a lot of the time it's kind of giving them the confidence of saying, yeah, that was really good. How we get to the next level is X, Y, and Z, and if you can't do it, let me show you, or I'll do it, and then you learn off that. And like Prof is unbelievable. Nagy's going to be really good when he finds his feet a bit more. Joe Hawkins in the centre, I think is going to be incredible. Unfortunately, just had an injury now. Like these guys are, not boys especially, these boys will be very good. It's just a case of we have to bring them on quicker. Do you know what I mean? And that to me is the challenge, whether it be in training, and this is where we speak about very much a conversation like this and a performance conversation, where a performance conversation isn't particularly much fun, but it's how we get better. And sometimes they will cock up. We cock up. Toby doesn't, obviously. And it's how we educate them and push them on again to go, right, this is how not to do it. Now you've seen how not to do it. This is how we get better. And it's an exciting place to be with young boys. And if we can find their voices and find their feet very quickly, we'll be a lot stronger for it.
Nick, I want to ask you about the conversation that's been, well, over the past few years really, about being able to support 4 regions. And there was talk, wasn't there, how many seasons ago now, or maybe a merger. I just want your thoughts on if you think it is sustainable to have 4 regions, and also maybe this idea of possibly some regions getting more of the money and some of the regions maybe having to accept that they're not going to get that funding and they're not going to go for European glory, a second-tier region, if you like.
Yeah, I think
All the best.
yeah. there's a lot of talk about this. Can everyone hear me at the back? I'm not sure the microphone.
Nick, you got one microphone. Come on, you should have it.
Hold it up a bit.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I might have fared better without a microphone. Okay, so this is something that regularly comes up, right? And my view is you can absolutely sustain 4 regions, and from a performance of the national team point of view, you probably need 4 regions. We've had some work done. So I think that, and you talked there about funding, right? I think that I talk about the ecosystem. I think it's got its head stuck in funding. And of course it's important, right? It's really important, but actually everyone's just thinking about it the wrong way, right? So first of all, on the number of regions, if it's about money, you need to generate money to put talent on the pitch to win, of course, right? And everyone's counting chimney pots. They're saying, how many of you guys, and several more are going to come to the stadium every week, how many are going to buy shirts in the store, etc., etc. Traditional commercial models of sport, and that's really, really important, right? And I'd love to see that stadium full, and I'd like to see it full not just for commercial reasons, but to give the guys the support that they need on match day to be more competitive, right? So there's a number of reasons there. However, there is not, and I apologise in advance, I will use football examples. There is not enough money in English football to fund 20 Premier League clubs at the level they're getting funded, if you count chimney pots, right? You know, these clubs are pulling in hundreds of millions of pounds a year in revenue. And the reality is that most of their supporters are outside the country, let alone outside the stadium, right? And I think that rugby is a really exciting, interesting game. It's a global game. It stacks up well, national team level, regional level, but it has to globalize its fan base. We do a lot of stuff right now in North America with Wave TV, where we will feed content, because there's some interesting, exciting content that comes out of rugby. And the reality is that young sports fans don't sit through 80, 90 minutes of sport, right? They sit through 90 seconds of clips, highlight reels, stuff like that. So this is really, really important. And those fans can be anywhere in the world, right? So if we make the Ospreys, but quite frankly, any of the Welsh regions, global brands, then you will be stronger. And that's as clearly as I see it, right? So I think we're looking at the model the wrong way. The second thing is, on the tiered funding, money's really important, but it's not everything, right? I would not be, so just for clarity, I fundamentally believe in equality of funding from the central model. I don't think the Ospreys should be funded more than anyone else, right? And that's because that's where the integrity of sport lies, right? Why financially dope one team to make them more successful? Because if we're asking the question of should we tier funding, and we're also asking the question of have we got enough teams, then you've got a problem in the way these businesses are managed, right? So if I'm sat there with my checkbook, why would I be investing more money in teams that are already losing it? I'd actually fix the business model so they can all thrive, and then you've got more talent, more of a healthy ecosystem in rugby, which commands more supporters, more kids getting involved, more good causes, more everything that comes with rugby. Don't kill it. It's a short-term view to fix a balance sheet issue, but it's going to bite you twice as hard in 3, 5, 10 years' time.
I guess just listening to you talking about maybe that global appeal, some people in the room, I don't want to talk for you, but they might be thinking, well, but what about us here now, the people who are in that stadium, the people who are buying the shirts, you know, not the global audience that we could be going for?
So the people here are the most important. If you think about your audience, it's like what's the term of the diagram? Concentric circles, right? And the people that come every week, that come to the stadium, that support the team, that are vocal, are vital, right? And the reality is that we need to focus on that too. I think we've got a great stadium here, right? It's decent for the guys, we've got good hospitality, there isn't a bad seat with an obscured view or everything, it's a good modern stadium. It's just a bit too big for where we are right now. I'd love to see the stadium full, but to fill the stadium, we've got to give a better match day experience, right? We've got to serve our supporters better. And we're doing a lot of work, you know, we only have so many levers to pull, right? But we're doing a lot of work with the Swans right now. So for anyone who doesn't know, the stadium is operated by a company that's basically run by the Swans. So that we operate within that agreement. And we're trying to shift some areas so we can enhance the match day experience, control some of the things like the prices of F&B to help give more back to the supporters. But this is really important as well. So the reality is you're never doing anything in isolation. Yes, we're looking for a global fan base, but critically we're looking to improve what we can do here domestically first.
I want to talk a bit more about recruitment. I don't know if we really covered all of it, but obviously we're talking about money. You need it if you are going to recruit. Or are you concentrating more on the academy goals, trying to get some homegrown talent and trying to find those players locally and nurture them for the future? Is that the answer?
I don't think you can take one approach. I think where we are from a contractual cycle and what we've inherited, we have no choice but to develop our own. I think that's personally the right way anyway, for the long term. I'm sure you all enjoy supporting a local youngster, and I saw some Callum, who's at that table over there. He was at the training ground today, and in his experience around the players, you know, we want to give him the opportunity to try and become the next Osprey, and those things are really important for us. And the emotional attachment to our region, to go out and pull the shirt on us, standing in front of a group, trying to motivate them if they're intrinsically connected to the area, to the stadium, to the group, that my job becomes a lot easier from a consistency, from an emotional point of view. So there's lots of added benefit for that. The trade-off is creating enough quality consistently to be competitive now. And that's always a yin and a yang when you're letting things unwind, learning about the people you've got. As I said, last year we had greater capacity for change. This year we haven't. The following year we have a vast capacity for change. So that we all want the same thing though. Right now we want to win as many games as possible, and we go into every contest picking, developing, preparing the side the best we can in order to do that. So whether we're good enough, you know, that's what the 80-minute tells us. We know that we're, as I said before, around about 50%. We need to be pushing that up. And the judgment, even for the youngsters, is there's no divine right to put on the shirt. You still have to perform to a level in order for us to perform well to get a result. And that's what some of these youngsters are doing. They've broken through a little bit, and the boys have talked about some of them, but right the way across the team. But now their challenge is not being satisfied with that and wanting to be an automatic selection or be the next. So Jack Morgan, everyone talks a very poignant, obviously example. Jack Morgan, from the moment I met him, I knew that he was destined for good things because he's never satisfied, and he mimics a lot of the guys that have been 100-cap international players. He's got that attitude. We want to nurture that in everyone, but as George was talking and as Cuffy was talking about, they also don't know what they don't know. So we have to create an environment in order for that to grow, and we'll see what comes out at the end. But ultimately, everyone owns their own performance.
And Jack was a different kind of player, wasn't he? He didn't go to the academy, did he? He had a job in a technical, maybe training arts company, and he played in the Premiership. And there's a question actually about the Premiership. What processes are in place to ensure that non-playing squad members are allowed to play rugby for Welsh Premiership clubs, as it would appear that many squad players are lacking game time? And that's been an issue, especially with COVID, with the league not happening.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, George alluded to it. You learn by playing, and then you review, you assess, like any good process. What am I going to be as a player? So, yeah, that's becoming much easier, and that's opening up for us. We have very strong links, obviously, across our clubs, but particularly around Swansea and Bridgend, for example. A lot of our players are now playing there on a weekly basis. I think we've got 10 going out this week. We've had 8 the week before. It's a critical part of them becoming the players they can be. And again, rewind 6 weeks ago, these same players, we needed them to train. And so it's a very difficult balancing act, but yeah, we need support structures and playing programs underneath, because ultimately we can assess a performance, but also they train to play, not to train, and we need to fuel their ambition as much as we can.
Nick, I'm going to come back to you. I'm trying to sort of spread these questions out to make it a bit easier for you. We've heard quite a bit from different CEOs from other regions. Some are quite vocal about the state of Welsh rugby. If you look at the Dragons, for instance, David Buttress, Dean Ryan has been very vocal as well about the challenges and the meetings that have been with the WRU. Just wondering, the Ospreys, what's your relationship like with the WRU at the moment?
I'd say with the WRU and all the regions as well, it's actually good. I think we all know there's a problem that needs fixing, and everyone is motivated by strong regions and a strong national team. So I spend a large amount of time in a room with David, Simon, Aline and Steve, working on this problem from a number of angles. Now, for me, it's good and it's normal. I'm told it's not normal, so I think that's a good positive move forward. So yeah, I'd say relations are quite good, and look, I've been doing it for a year, right? So I kind of thought it might be done quicker, but it's taken some time, but at least it's moving forward and it's moving positively. I think people are starting to see that we now need to have a long-term plan, not just a short-term fix.
And is the fact that you've only been in the job for a year maybe one reason for you maybe keeping a bit quieter than other CEOs on different matters?
I'm just very shy. No, look, I kind of I don't get shouting off in the media. Is my view. I think just kind of sport is about positivity and competition and equality, right? And that's the positive equity that excites us every weekend to follow it. I don't think that people from boardrooms saying it's all doomed on their social media channels, or in fact any media channel, serves the game in any way. I can't think one positive thing that's come out of it. So I will not do it. And I've also said to the other chairs, I'd really appreciate it if they don't do it, and you can see how much they listen to me. But no, I think my view is don't burn your own house down, right? This is our house, we got to fix it. There's no point shouting about what's wrong with it, let's just focus on fixing it.
Talk about social media there. Quite a few of the CEOs, they use that as a good forum platform to chat with the supporters quite directly. They cut out the middleman, the media, if you like. Is that something you've thought about? Like, I'm thinking about Simon during South Africa problems. You know, he was telling all the supporters what was happening through Twitter, and we as the media were hearing about it at the same time. Is that something you might sort of think about jumping on that platform to help the relationship with the supporters?
I think it's important to keep the supporters informed. I don't know if an open channel like social media is the right way to do it. I kind of, if there's a sentiment, and obviously we've had a couple of years of COVID, right, and we've not done this enough. So if we've done some stuff internally, like I do a monthly kind of newsletter update and stuff that's going on. But if the supporters feel that they're not involved enough in the club, and that's a problem, we have to address that. I don't see myself doing it through social media, but I would welcome other forums like this.
We will be having a break very soon. Before we do that, I just want to remind you, if you've got any questions, please use the piece of paper on the table. We'll get the questions during the little break and I'll put them to the panel if I can. I just want to talk about the derbies coming up first of all, ending the season on a high, some rivalries, they always get a bit spicy. Are you looking forward to the derbies coming up, Alex?
Yeah, 100%, especially against Cardiff. I managed to play one there this year, so I'm buzzing really to hopefully if Toby picks me and get involved, get back into training. So it's one we'll be definitely relishing, especially with the disappointment of Africa. We got a few right, we owe one, so I'm looking forward to getting there, and I think all the boys are, to be fair.
How nice would it be to have the boys, the band, back together? Because a few years back, you would have been on the wing for Wales, wouldn't you? And it'd be nice to see you two back on the wing together.
I'm looking forward to it, to be fair. And do you want left or right? I don't know. But I don't know. No, it'd be good to see him play. I've been here a while now, and it'd be good to see him on the field and doing his stuff as George does. I don't know if you're that excited about playing for me.
That was nice, isn't it? It'd be nice just to play rugby, to be honest. Derby is it's like competition with the competition, isn't it? Especially here in Wales, the pride everyone has, the regions, the constant back and forward, and obviously for us, I guess the way I liken it is to F1. You always fighting your teammate because you don't want to be the last in the teammate, and to me, the Welsh region is always the biggest games because you don't want to be. You want to be the best region. You have to be the best region, and for us, that goes with it. Is we've got a good run now with 3. Why not? Off the back of South Africa, as Cathy said, there is going to be a reaction. There has to be. I'm certainly going to drive it. Like we have to be up there, and we know as players, it's not good enough. And from our point of view, it's up to us to really step up now and put a stamp on these next 3 games, because that is basically where we want to be. We want to be the best region, and then from that we want to be competing in Europe. And that doesn't happen. You have to earn it. You have to do it step by step, and what will be will be. But yeah, playing with Cathy would be nice. Yeah. But it's just smash into it, isn't it?
And after Cardiff, it's the Scarlets, of course. How much would you like to spoil the Scarlets party? Because they're on a bit of a roll at the moment. That would be quite nice. Get the liberty, wouldn't it?
Steal their players, steal their points. Just going back on you might have mentioned with the accent that I'm across the bridge. Just on the derbies, from my own personal view, everyone talks about derbies, and I've been West Country derbies and London derbies. No, they're not derbies compared to this. They are the mood in the camp is you can almost touch it. And that's what's really exciting. These boys, and if I look at last season's start, obviously we went back-to-back wins in derbies, which was a great start to the season. The third game, we probably couldn't match the emotional level because of the emotional investment in the derbies. So I feel very privileged to coach a Welsh region in derbies, because I know how special it is for these, and I know how special it is for you.
Here we are. Right then, I think we're going to have a little break there, so you can, these guys can have a little break. Go and have a drink, and we'll see you back in about 15 minutes, so remember about those questions. Thank you very much. We're not going to keep you long. Hopefully you've had a nice break. Toby's discussing his signings for next season, giving some exclusives away.
He's just signed that man on a 3-year deal, Mike, so...
Here we go. And before we go any further, I just want to say as well, congratulations, George North, an honorary degree this week as well. But what does that actually mean, George? What can you do?
It just means I'm really smart.
Oh. Honorary degree in what?
Master of Arts. So that covers a lot, you know, science,
You draw
arts.
pictures.
I mean, I'm good at dot to dot, and then
Crayons especially.
yeah. Jealousy's a cruel thing, Nick. You know, come on now.
So you are Becky?
Yes, I got stitched up a little bit because in the proceedings they were like, you know, they give you the itinerary of how it will work, and obviously there's a big tradition to it, and I'm obviously very conscious that I didn't want to upset anything. And there's a bit where they said, obviously, accept the honour degree, and then we encourage you to say something. And at this point, I'm going, oh no, because like obviously there's a lot of people there that have worked very hard, and obviously very privileged to have been awarded it. And then Becky turns and says, are we both needed to talk? And then the lady says, no, just one of you. And then she just goes, George will do it. And I was like, oh no. But then the whole time, while we're going up, she's like saying, make sure you say this, make sure you say this. So by the time I got up there, I was like, why don't you say something then? And she was like, sorry, I told my wife now. Anyway. But then I did start off by saying, on behalf of my wife and I thought myself, it's like my wedding speech again, isn't it? So, no, obviously a huge honour and a great experience. And that was awarded to me originally in 2020, so it shows you obviously with COVID that was the class of 20 catching up, really.
Well, congratulations, well done, good stuff.
Thank you very much.
I want to talk about an average training session. I think we've had a question in asking, you know, as you prepare for another game, and you know, a specific game, Cardiff up next, what is a normal training week? What does it look like? Because we all know that you train day in, day out. We know that you're in the gym. We know you haven't got too much contact. But you know, what does it look like for us?
Well, I haven't trained in a while, so no. Obviously, for us, the week is structured. So you're by Saturday, by game day. If you go on Monday to a Saturday or Saturday, is by Saturday you're as fresh as you can be leading into that match. So you've done all the hard work and hard lifting early in the week, and you're sort of tapering off. So by game time, you should be hissing really. Obviously, each week will vary, depends on the team we're playing. Obviously, Cardiff this week, obviously a huge jackal threat, so obviously a lot more contact, and that, I guess the contacts going forward, so when we're on the game line, obviously there's wide contacts as well. Obviously working on our counter-attack as well, obviously that kicking threat in the backfield, and we're just trying to hone that focus in come Saturday, that you know, these are the pitches we're seeing, these are opportunities, and this is how we exploit them.
So we can add something to that?
No, it's great. That's absolutely right. The basics are the basics, and you know, the challenge for coaches is to try and boys want short and sharp sessions, and that's the buy-in. If they bring the quality, the intensity stays where it is, and we effectively train at the right intensity. And can they deliver the performance at the intensity? So, you know, we basically prepare, and then our Thursday session, which we call the siege session, is around testing the learning at overspeed to see what has actually gone in and what we can do. And if we still aren't where we need to be, then we can address it before the event. And part of that design is, as a coach for years, you'd be sitting on a Monday morning, we didn't do. So almost you've got to try and, you know, test it beforehand. But, you know, the boys are right. We front load the week from an intensity point of view, shorter and sharper towards the end of the week to be as fresh as we can across what is a marathon season.
During that little break, somebody came up to me, so don't bring me for the next question, and said, will you please talk about the average age of the room? I promise somebody came up to me to mention this, but Nick, I know it's something that you're quite passionate about, trying to get maybe some younger supporters in, is that how I'm saying it?
Yeah, look, I think as a pillar of the community, the Ospreys supporter base should be representative of that community, and it's on us to create a product that appeals to everyone, right? And yes, it's younger. It's great to see women in the room today. I want to see more women, more diversity, just more with everything. I think is really important. And I kind of touched on some points earlier about understanding how those fans consume sport is different to the way I would have done. I do. So it's about being sensitive to that. And I think to reflect the community in which you operate is really important. So we're doing a lot of work to do that now.
Okay, I want to talk about somebody who's not here, Mr. Alan Jones. He's coming up to his 250th appearance for the Ospreys. Am I right in saying that, Toby?
That is true. Yeah,
Which is quite phenomenal.
it's quite phenomenal.
So plans for that? Can it happen in the next few weeks?
Yes, hope so. Yes, of course. That's the plan. And yeah, a very special individual. These guys have, been on the pitch with him and blood, sweat and tears. And I've used this story a lot from my own experience of there's no coincidence that people achieve what they do. Obviously there's the genetic side, the recovery side, the process side, and my very first training session at the Ospreys at St Helens, I arrived around 8:30 and the first session was 9 o'clock and nobody's out on the pitch except Al. And I was like, okay, and I've had obviously conversations with him before being there, as I've done with a number of players. And he was out there, I went over, introduced myself, saw what he was all about, and he was preparing himself to train. And he went from minute 0 to minute 45, absolutely flat out. Thought fine. Next day did exactly the same, next day did exactly the same, next day did exactly the same. And after 3 weeks I asked the coaches, Duncan Jones and Richard Fussell, and people that have been around him all his life, and I could have asked these guys the same question. I said, what's this? Is this like this new coach routine, And he went, no, that's just Al. And there's no surprise. What is a surprise in the position that he plays and the attritional nature of rugby, especially is the amount of collisions have increased. To reach those milestones, I don't think everyone will ever do it again. I really don't.
I'm asking that question. Are you planning something special for the 250th?
Well, he can't tell you, can he? Because everyone's loose lipped around here. He'll know before anything else.
Yeah, as far as there are plans. Yeah, there certainly are plans, and it's a unique scenario. So we have different milestones, caps and shirts and bits and pieces, and we're trying to dust off the history books to see what happens with 250. So yeah, there'll be definitely something special, and obviously the intention will be to be a more memorable experience than his last one.
As the evening sort of draws to an end, excuse me, sorry.
Do you want me to fill it?
Sing a song.
So, Alex, what's your thoughts on Alan Wynne and his as a peer to him through the years?
He's an absolute netter, isn't he?
She's fine. Catrin's fine now. Keep going.
What can I say about Al? He's always the last out of the shower, anyway, but in terms of training and whatnot, he's always last in everything, in terms of first there, last out. He just sets the benchmark for everybody, and to any young second row growing up, just sort of try and you're never going to emulate him, but in terms of following his footprint and how he goes about his daily life in terms of his professionalism, he's the one to follow.
Honestly, you're more than welcome to carry on if you want
You're doing a great job.
Slag him off a bit more.
Nick, so in your opinion, I go first.
As the evening sort of coming to an end, I just want to know your views going forward. Nick, you've sort of invested off the pitch in year 1, in
On
year
the pitch.
2, on the pitch.
In year 1.
In year 1. Off the pitch in year 2?
Correct.
Yes?
Correct.
What's happening in year 3 then?
Well, we're kind of now just getting into the investing off the pitch. And that's, I think you're going to see some of the results come from that quite soon. So back to the kind of points I made before, we're investing in any area of the club that generates revenue. So what I kind of found when I came in here is that sports business is really different to, let's call them normal businesses, right? I think they grow organically, and somebody comes in and they do a job and they do quite well. Why don't you take this as well and take this? So we've actually just gone through a complete reorganization, new structure. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Is that better?
No, go back.
That's got the only other word.
Used to. So we've done a whole new structure, and you're going to see a lot of jobs coming in the market quite soon to work at the Ospreys, which is exciting. A lot in the kind of commercial space, a lot in the content generation side of things as well. to really build that up. So this is an area that we're already starting to see results from, so we're going to probably announce, you can ask Anthony at the back, but certainly 2 new commercial partnerships this week. One of them's a global brand out of North America, so great to see global brands interested in the Ospreys, which is pretty exciting. So it's starting to work, so that investment off the pitch is really just starting to kick in now. We spent a lot of time building the right plan to take the business forward. The other thing, which is almost a phase 2 of that, is through Y11, the ownership, we've got a number of sports businesses around the world, and having experience and talent in those businesses that we can use at the Ospreys and vice versa creates great opportunity and gives us a point of difference over all of our competitors, which ultimately is this thing, right? Everyone thinks about sports business being fought on the pitch, which they are, and it's fierce, but it's fierce off it too. So you've got to get the best possible people, because ultimately whatever you generate from the supporters and from commercial partners, everything ends up on the pitch. No one's in this to take a big dividend home, right? It all ends up in performance, and we want to win. That's what we're here to do.
And Toby, your sort of hopes for the next season, if we sort of accept that maybe this season is not going to be going for silverware, what's the hopes for next season?
Well,
Our intention is
turn it
still
off.
to be, sorry, yeah, that's where the problem was, turn it on. Our intention is to be the best Welsh region and win the Welsh Shield. That's still alive and kicking, and we're going to put everything we can into that. The second bit is, obviously we talked about consistency and that win percentage, and working towards that. We're another season of experience. And lastly is to spend the money that Nick gives me.
More of it.
Yeah, just spend the money that Nick gives me. No, and obviously with the contracts unwinding post World Cup, you know, that's a big recruitment year for us. And hopefully guys like these that, you know, our household names, our big players stay fit, because that will only enhance our ability to win now.
And Toby, we've got one final question for you. It's been submitted by an A Cuthbert, but I think a G North might be behind it. How do you see the back 3 looking for the Cardiff game?
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
We'll leave it there. Thank you ever so much for your company this evening, and please show your appreciation to our guests this evening, Alex Cuthbert, George Moore, Toby Jones, and thank you very much. The Ospreys will see you for the next home game, which is the Scarlets, on the 30th of April. There we are. Hopefully the Liberty will be packed for that one. Thank you very much for your company.